Welcome to this overview video on standards-based grading practices being suggested for implementation across the Indian Creek School District. Now I would like to begin with a key question, and that question is, what do students' grades reflect? Now traditionally, students' grades are a reflection of the number of points earned on assignments throughout a particular grading period, and then a letter grade that represents that percentage of points is assigned to each student. So for example, if a grading period had 100 possible points and a student gained 85 of those possible points, they would be given an 85%, which correlates to a B. But the issue is that this type of grading actually doesn't say very much about a student's skills. For example, what does earning a B actually mean? Does it mean that all of a student's skills fall into a specific range, into the 85% range or the B range? Is everything that a student has done in that specific range of skills and understanding? Does earning a B tell us anything about a student's current skill levels or how much they've improved over the quarter or semester? And the answer in all of these cases is no, because the B, the letter grade or the percentage grade, only reflects the percentage of points throughout the entire quarter. It says nothing about what skills a student currently has or how much they have grown over the quarter, because it is just a mathematical calculation. So then the question becomes, why is this a problem? And one issue with more typical grading systems is that the grades given are seen as a blanket statement about a student's understanding and ability. And for example, if we go back to the 85% or B example discussed before, if a student is given that letter grade or percentage grade in language arts, does that mean that their writing ability, their reading ability, their speaking and listening abilities are all in that same range? And in almost every case, the answer is going to be no. There are going to be differences within subjects between skills and understanding, and letter grades and percentage grades do not accurately show these areas of success and these areas of need, because it's just one letter grade assigned to an entire quarter or semester of work. Another issue with typical grading systems is that letter or percentage grades don't say anything at all about a student's actual skills. If you were to ask a student, again in language arts, well, how well can you introduce an idea and explain your idea with evidence and using good reasoning? And if all a student knows is that they're earning an 85% or they're earning a B, will they say, well, I can introduce an idea 85% of the time, or I can introduce 85% of the idea? There's no information to students, to teachers, or to parents about what skills and what understandings a student actually has based upon their letter or percentage grades. And then a final issue with traditional grading systems is that students actually become conditioned to focus primarily on earning points rather than gaining skills. This is something we hear all the time in classrooms, students asking, well, how many points do I need to get an A? Or how many points do I need on my essay assignment? Rather than what skills do I need to achieve the learning goals or the learning standards of these assignments? And this is something that we really hope to change within the academic culture by implementing standards-based grading. So it's important to talk about what is standards-based grading. And essentially, standards-based grading is a system in which the grades students earn are a reflection of their ability to meet specific learning targets or standards. And class activities and homework assignments become designed so that students can gain understanding, can gain insight, and practice and improve their skills that are necessary to meet these standards. So the goals within standards-based grading curriculum are clearly defined. Students are always working towards these goals, and whatever they do in class is only meant to help them meet these goals. And then the standards or the learning targets are assessed on a 4-point scale where each level of the scale correlates to a specific ability level in regards to performing skills and understanding. And a key part of standards-based grading is that rubrics are given that hold performance indicators of each level so that students know exactly what evidence they need to show or what skills they need to use to master or exceed a learning standard. And so on the 4-point scale of standards-based grading, the levels are a level of 4 means that a student has exceeded a standard by consistently demonstrating an advanced understanding and the ability to apply their knowledge. These are the students who go above and beyond, who have not only mastered but moved past the skills that are being asked of them. A level of 3 indicates that a student has independently mastered the standard. And that's a key concept of standards-based grading, in that the goal is for all students to reach the level of 3, because that shows they have mastered the standard, they have gained the skills and understanding that they need, and they are prepared to move on to the next academic level. For students who are so used to earning 95, 97, 100%, this can be a bit of an adjustment, because if they're only earning 3s and they think of it as I'm only earning a 3 as opposed to a 4, they might feel as though they're failing or performing less well. This is really not the case, and something that teachers and parents would really need to address with their students, because the 3 is the level that we are all really working toward. Now, a level of 2 would indicate that a student is progressing toward a standard by developing their understanding and skills, but they may need additional instruction or support to master these skills. So these are the students who are on their way. They've got a good foundation. They just need a little more time and practice to master their skills. And then finally, a level of 1 indicates that a student is beginning to understand a standard, but they need a lot more time, instruction, support, and practice to master the standard. So these are the students who still have a bit of work to do. And as you can see, each level on the standards-based grading scale is clearly different than the level above and below. Again, this makes for much more consistent grading and much more clear expectations in what it means to perform at each level in the standards-based scale. So if you look at the example rubric provided, the standard that is being measured is one from 8th grade language arts, which asks students to introduce claims, acknowledge and distinguish the claims from alternate or opposing claims, and then organize the reasons and evidence logically. And you can see that for each level, in the right-hand column, the performance indicators show clear understandings and skills that are needed to perform at each level of the standards-based grading scale. And as you read through, you will see that there are clear differences and distinctions between each level, so that students know exactly what they need to show and exactly what they need to do to perform at each level of the standards-based grading scale. Again, it is very clear. It provides teachers the ability to tell students exactly what is needed and takes any mystery out of what skills and understanding represent what level on the standards-based scale. So some people might ask, well, why use a 4-point scale in grading? And one of the benefits of a 4-point scale is that it's much more accurate than, say, the 100-point scale traditionally used in reflecting student abilities and creating consistency in grading. So, for example, in certain classes, if you were to ask a teacher, well, what level on the 100-point scale represents mastery? You might get some teachers who say, well, only 100% means that a student has truly mastered a subject. Others might say 90%, 85%, but the key thing to take away is that these answers are drastically different. Whereas in a 4-point scale, it's very clear which level indicates mastery, progression, beginning, etc. Now, if teachers were to try to do this on a 100-point scale, it would be almost impossible to create a clear difference in skill between 89, 90, 91, and every level of the 100-point scale. So really, all the 100-point scale does is look at numerical differences, but these mathematical calculations, again, do not really show any difference in skill other than students earned more or fewer points. On the other hand, a 4-point scale, every level of that scale has a clear difference regarding the skills that are reflected by that score. There's a clear difference between what it means to perform at a 2 versus a 3 versus a 4-point level on this scale. So I have a couple of examples of how standards-based grading provides a better picture of student performance and progress. In this example on the left, in a traditional grading system, a student who struggles early with homework and classwork and performs at a lower level on a quiz because they're just learning these skills, but then masters the skills and performs at an incredibly high level at the end of unit assessment, would only average a 73 out of 100, which would correlate to a C, and in most cases this would dictate that a student is lacking in skills, is still struggling, when obviously this student has mastered the skills required by the end of this unit based on their score on the final test. Whereas in a standards-based system, a student would slowly grow from a 1 to a 2, and by the end of the unit consistently performs at the level of 3, which would show that that standard has been mastered. Now, on the other hand, if you were to have a traditional unit where, say, homework and classwork were just taken for completion, then a student who did well on homework and classwork assignments but poor on their assessments, in this example, would earn an 81%, which is a B. And that percentage average and that letter grade are normally correlated with this student is slightly above average, they've mastered the skills, they're ready to move on, when the scores that they earned on their assessments and the times they were really asked to show their skills show that they really didn't master these skills and they still have a lot of work left to do. Whereas in a standards-based unit, because that student never progressed past the level of 2 out of 4, their grade would show that their score on this standard is a 2, that they're progressing, but that they still have work to do. Just a couple examples of how standards-based grading systems provide a more accurate picture of performance and progress than more traditional average-based grading systems. So a lot of people might wonder, well, how does homework fit into standards-based grading? And homework and in-class practice activities are exactly that. They're chances for students to practice skills and understanding before they use them in a future assessment. And these practice scores, while they're not included in a student's actual grade, are vital in informing both teachers and students of where students are doing well and where students still need more reteaching and more practice. And so this is a way that homework now becomes what teachers use to plan their instruction, because they can see what areas of need students have and tailor their instruction to meet those needs. So even though, again, these practice assignments do not really impact a student's grade, homework still has a very important place in standards-based grading. And then some also might wonder what happens to students who earn 1s. And the most important part of standards-based grading is that students can resubmit their assignments to earn a higher score by showing growth toward their mastery. So students who earn low scores of 1s, which would not really be out of the question based on new, more challenging skills and understandings, these students will be given the materials and instruction that they need and then be allowed to perform toward a standard again. And because these standards are measured consistently, a student's most recent and consistent level of performance is what their grades reflect. So this prevents early lower scores from negatively impacting student grades because their standards and their skills are measured again and they're given the chance to resubmit assignments to earn a higher scores by showing growth. So that is an overview of standards-based grading systems. I hope that you have found this video informative. and I would like to thank you all for watching.